Welcome to the Her Story Circle podcast, the podcast that brings you the extraordinary tales of everyday women who are changing the world. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. Every week, we dive into the lives, challenges, and triumphs of women from all four corners of the globe. We're here to inspire, enlighten, and connect, sharing stories that uplift and empower. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and join us as we explore the incredible journeys of women shaping our future. This is Her Story, where every woman's voice matters. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story Circle. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with the presence of yet another fascinating woman. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, and share your story with us today.
Hi, my name is Erica Nelson, and I am coming from Madison, Wisconsin, in the United States, and it is the evening here, and I'm really excited about this opportunity to be with you today to talk a little bit about my story. So I am I'm an attorney in the United States, and really have spent probably the last 20 plus years of my career dedicated to improving the lives of children and families in an entire social justice spheres, from child welfare to juvenile justice, racial equity, and now I'm working in the civil legal access to justice space. My story began in this social justice space 20 years ago, when I became an attorney representing parents who were accused of abuse and neglect in the foster care system. And there were countless stories of mothers whose children were at risk of being taken from them as a consequence, in almost the majority of cases, for really not having the adequate resources or opportunities to meet their child's needs or their own needs, not because they were intentional or intentionally harming or abusing, or in any way not wanting to meet the needs of their children, but rather just did not have the resources or the opportunities or the support to do so. And I've been thinking and reflecting, this upcoming Sunday is Mother's Day here in the United States, where it's a day where mothers are celebrated. And I've been thinking a lot about the mothers that I worked with, the mothers that I continue to see, that are working tirelessly to meet the needs of their families and just do not have the support and the resources that the system or the community is needed to for them to thrive. One story in particular from years and years ago, when I was representing an individual, she was on the brink of having her children removed from her because she herself was suffering from mental health issues. And those issues were interrupting, in many cases, what others on the outside seemed as or perceived as inadequate care. And myself and a social worker worked with her for off and on for a year to really get her in the right situation, the right mental health resources that she needed, and the right support. And eventually her children were stayed with her and then were taken away, but then eventually came back again. And really what was key to that was that she just really needed someone to believe in her and believe in her abilities and her love as a mother towards her children. Um, and that's what we did. That's what we provided when we were doing this work. And I think that was a difference maker, both for the 3 children that she had and their future, and for her to have people that believed and supported her alongside her involvement in the child welfare system and in the legal system, a legal system that it was very hard for her to navigate had it not been for the presence of an attorney or a social worker to help her navigate those resources. And again, on the eve of Mother's Day, I am just thinking about all the mothers who have been working really, really hard. And despite their efforts, the odds are stacked against them, because in our civil legal and our criminal justice system and many of our systems here in the United States and arguably across the world, those that are less resourced, have less money, will not get the justice that they deserve to support their families, to have thriving families, to have the opportunities to become the people that they know that they can become. And it reminds me of the Brian Stevenson quote that the opposite of poverty is not wealth, but the opposite of poverty is justice. And that means for me, and has for my entire career, meant that we give everyone, and everyone's deserving of a fair chance and equal opportunity. Not that everyone's going to have all the same things everywhere, but that they are given a fair chance at having those opportunities and being able to thrive. And that has been the story of my career, from being a young attorney in New York City to running a legal services organization here in Madison, Wisconsin called Lift Wisconsin. And the organization is dedicated to mitigating the harm that comes from too many low-income people being involved in a civil legal system that prevents them from becoming economically stable. So criminal records, housing evictions, child support orders that do not meet their ability to pay, the small claims, consumer debt, things that people need to meet their basic needs, and they really can't access those resources. So Lift Wisconsin is really on the cutting edge of trying to bridge the access to justice gap. And the access to justice gap is there where there are more people who are in need of legal services than there are lawyers and organizations to meet that need. And so there is this vast gap between those that need support and those available to provide the support. And Lift Wisconsin is, its mission is to bridge that gap by using technology. We have a free web-based tool called the Legal Tune-Up Tool that allows anyone to go in the state of Wisconsin and learn and get provided the resources and the information to address many civil legal barriers that are preventing them from thriving. And this is really about mitigating the harm that comes from fines and fees, the challenges and the barriers that arrive from not understanding the legal system because you're not a lawyer. The system was built by lawyers, for lawyers to navigate, not for everyday people to be successful in trying to represent themselves. And as a consequence, we're really leaving in Wisconsin thousands and thousands of people behind, but in the country as a whole, we're leaving hundreds of thousands of people unable and under-resourced to meet the challenges that are faced from something like an eviction or a criminal record that is preventing them from getting stable employment, or not the ability to get a driver's license, which is required to gain family sustaining employment. So really the work that I have dedicated the last 20 years to has been around the many different angles and spaces in which families and children and can be better supported in their hope and ability to thrive, whether that's through new innovative approaches to getting help and justice, as well as, examples that I gave earlier from representing mothers in the child welfare system so that they can be with their children, which we know, that's the most important thing to mothers around the world, is to be able to support and love their children in a safe and stable community.
Wow, thank you so much, Erica, for the work that you're doing and for coming online and sharing this with us. A lot of people do not understand the impact of poverty and the legal system.
Mm-hmm.
So, what would you say are the most misunderstood myths about poverty and the legal system?
Well, I think all too often people separate poverty issues from legal issues, or they just assume legal issues are with respect to someone committing a crime. And that's when they think of the legal system, they think of the criminal system or someone being imprisoned or incarcerated, when in fact the vast majority of people, when they are dealing with a civil legal system, that's which does nothing to do with putting them in jail or in prison, but rather has everything to do with their economic stability. Civil systems have to do with consumer debt, which if you fall behind on a payment and you get a default judgment in court, in the United States anyways, your wages can be garnished, your tax refund can be taken. And these are often families that are living paycheck to paycheck and struggling. And so they end up in this revolving door of civil legal issues that are making it almost impossible to escape the poverty or the dire economic circumstances that they may be in.
That's really sad. Now, you've worked closely with families. What surprised you the most about their reality?
Well, I think that, it depends in certain circumstances. With the child welfare system, for me, I don't know if it's necessarily surprising, but what's true is that the vast majority, like 98% of parents, really love their children and they want to do right by them. They just don't know exactly how to do that all the time, every day. And they don't have necessarily the resources to do it. And I think we have this perception that, if someone's involved in the child welfare system, that they must be a bad parent. And that's not true. I also think for the families that I see now in the space of civil legal, they're just trying to navigate something. Like they're showing up not to actually figure it out and to understand it and to learn and to take it on. Again, the perception is that this must be their fault or their failure, when in fact it's the system's failure to provide the right information, the right resources, make it accessible, make it easy. And the fact that people keep on trying to figure it out, I think is absolutely amazing. It's inspiring that, against sort of this massive wall sometimes of bureaucracy that is hard to explain to people, and there's no reason behind it, right? You can't say, oh, this is the reason it exists. There's some rationale behind it. That's not necessarily the case. You just have to sort of sometimes say, yeah, this is it. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense. But I'm here to
So,
support you.
so how does the justice system unintentionally trap people in cycles of poverty?
Because I mean, I can give an example from the States in particular of uh, one that we see fairly often, and that is for those that are formally incarcerated. So they've just come out of prison and they are trying to re-enter into the community. And in order
Mm,
to do that, they need to have a job. In order to have a job, they need to have a driver's license. They are likely behind on their child support payments. But in order to get up to speed on their child support payments, they have to have the job, which requires the driver's license, which requires fees to get your driver's license back.
yeah.
And we see people over and over again where they can't understand that they need to pay $300 to do an assessment to get their driver's license so that they can get employed, so that they can do the right thing, which is pay their child support. And
Yeah.
they can't get the job without the driver's license, but they can't pay to get the driver's license without the job. And they
So
certainly can't make their child support payments, which they become more and more behind in, and then get in deeper and deeper in debt in that. And so there doesn't seem to be a release valve that's
yes.
readily available for those individuals um, uh, to
Sounds like a vicious
it
cycle.
is an absolutely vicious cycle in
Mm,
which we don't have the release valve for them, because that would literally require cash payment. Like, here's the money to do the assessment to get your driver's license, but we don't have the resources to do that, right?
mm,
And
yeah.
that is something that the system itself needs to
Oh,
change.
that's so
Um,
sad.
yeah.
That's really sad. So, what are legal deserts and why should we care about them?
Yeah. So legal deserts are part of this access to justice crisis in the United States, in particular, and I think they exist in other. I imagine they exist all over the world,
Mm,
and it's where there are. I mean, it's the parallel to food deserts, that phrase or that concept, where
yes.
there are not enough attorneys or hardly any attorneys to meet vast numbers and geographic spaces.
Right.
And in Wisconsin, we have some of the worst legal deserts in the country, where there are only a few lawyers that can serve tens of thousands of people in rural areas across the state. And so that in and of itself is a crisis of access,
Yeah.
where if you do not know how to resolve your issue and you need an attorney to do so, but you can't access that attorney because there are not enough, then you just sit there, and these issues compound and they end up unresolved. I think one of the solutions to that people are working on is community justice workers, and a model where those that are not trained or licensed attorneys can actually learn enough about certain legal issues to impart knowledge and resources and education that allows those individuals who are in legal deserts to then have better agency and
Mm,
empowerment to address the issue on their own. So that is sort of the space in between, where people are trying to be innovative and work towards solutions.
yeah. So, what role does systemic and structural racism play in access to justice?
Man, that is, in so many ways, the structural and systemic racism play in access to civil legal justice. One, oftentimes BIPOC communities or communities of color are in legal deserts where there are not a lot of attorneys, whether that's
Yes.
a legal desert can still exist in a predominantly urban or highly populated area.
Yeah.
I think that because of circumstances and historical circumstances, the trust of the legal system itself and of our justice system is weak. And that gets compounded by not having access for individuals.
Yeah.
I think in cases like child welfare, for example, or youth justice, or when it comes to those that are formerly incarcerated, there's a lot of systemic and structural racism at play towards communities of color in being able to access those resources and actually just get sort of a fair shake.
Wow, it's just layers and layers to the issue.
Mm-hmm.
Don't realize until you start talking about it. So, what does true support look like for someone navigating the system?
That's a great question. I think true support is one, listening.
Yeah.
I think just sitting and listening to an individual's story is really important. Whether you can, I don't know if fix it is the wrong word, but whether you can address it or not, or get them out of their circumstance, I think listening is really important, first and foremost. And then I think giving people the resources and the tools and the information that they need in a way that they understand it. Because I believe that people, oftentimes, I think humans, if they understand, they're much better equipped to accept difficult circumstances if they know the facts that are before them and what tools they have in their toolkit to address those circumstances. So that really comes down to like information, education, and then also just the belief in the person and giving them some dignity and respect despite what their circumstances might be. That indicates to them in a sincere and real way that you think that there's a brighter future, that there's some hope, that there's some possibility, and that they have the ability and capabilities to achieve that for themselves or their family.
Yes. I like that. Wow. Now, where is technology helping and where is it leaving people behind?
So, like I said, sort of in the opening, that Lift Wisconsin and the Legal Tune-Up tool is a justice tech tool where we use our tool to scrape publicly available databases in the state of Wisconsin in order to get more information about someone's case. So then they can start to navigate themselves through it. I do think that technology has a real important role to play in the civil legal space because it is the means to get access. That's how lots of people are beginning to function in their day-to-day lives, is using technology to address their problems. However, that is from the premise or the assumption rather, that everyone has access to technology, that everyone has a tool, that everyone has internet and broadband access. And when we're talking about legal deserts, oftentimes individuals don't have broadband access in the areas that they're living in order to do the things that I just described.
Oh, man.
So I think there's a huge gap and an assumption that everyone is
connected.
Everyone's connected and that they know how to utilize the tools if they have them, or that they are computer literate or internet literate, or however we're talking about it these days, technology literate. And I do think there's something to be said about AI and its role in these spaces, but also really cognizant that many people can be left behind in a technological revolution. And oftentimes those that are the most under-resourced and the most sort of vulnerable, for lack of a better expression, are likely
Yes.
those that are not going to benefit from a technological revolution. And in many cases, maybe the ones suffering the biggest consequence of it. So whether that's water and data centers and noise and environmental justice issues, the same people who I may be trying to support over here may be facing those same consequences if we're not thoughtful and intentional about who gets access and
Who
how.
doesn't? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what fears or resistance do you face when trying to drive this change?
What fears? I think people like the status quo. The status quo makes people comfortable. They're resistant to changing systems. They're resistant to revolutionizing them. I think in the case of civil legal justice, much of our courts and our bureaucracies and the way we function is actually built on the fines and fees that these people are paying.
Yes.
So we don't have currently a solid, financial structure for supporting our court systems if it's not on the back, or our police departments or what have you, if it's not in the form of fines or fees or so we need alternatives to that. And I think that there might be some pushback on that. What if we don't have this system of using people that can't afford it to pay the fines and fees? But I think if we got together, there'd be less fear and less resistance. I also think that people, as the case is, they don't know. And so they're not, until you know or you understand an issue, you may be more fearful or distrustful of what change is taking place.
Yeah, that ignorance is a big factor.
Absolutely.
So, what gives you hope even when progress feels slow?
Well, I think that the people that I see who we talked about before, who are just keeping at it every day, that always gives me hope. I have to say, as a person who's been doing social justice related work for a long time, if hope wasn't running through me as just part of my DNA, I don't think, I would have lasted this long, I guess. And I do think I see people every single day working hard to provide opportunity, improve well-being for children and families. There are a lot of really good people out here fighting the good fight. And I think having that sort of, whether it's unspoken or it's just imagine it, it's people out there, like that sense of solidarity in making change gives me hope. And knowing that change does happen, for the good. I mean, the historical perspective too.
So if nothing changes, what is the long-term cost to society?
Oh man, if nothing changes in the justice space, whether that's criminal justice or civil legal justice or environmental justice or racial justice, we will, all of us face the consequences of not addressing these issues. And by that, I mean, we won't have communities that are thriving. We won't be living in spaces that we all want to be a part of. And I think we increase the distance between those that have and those that have not. And that's certainly not the world or community that I want to live in. I want to live in a place where people have a sense of opportunity and belief and shared values and shared visions for the future.
And so what is one simple action that lawyers, leaders, or everyday people can take today?
Yeah, so I think providing support, financial support to organizations like Lift Wisconsin and civil legal aid providers is extraordinarily important.
Right.
I think if you're an attorney, volunteering in
Yes.
clinics to support these individuals that need more, we need more lawyers doing this work. Absolutely. And then I think paying attention to policy and public policy and how we're funding things, and are we making fair laws? Are we trying to level the playing field when we're passing legislation and working for new laws and new elected leaders? I think paying attention to this space is absolutely critical as we try to think about low-income individuals and mitigating poverty.
That is so good. And what legacy do you really want to leave behind through your work?
Oh, well, one, I want my children to know that it's important to be a good person, to try to advocate for fairness and justice. So that's a legacy that I want to leave, like, close to home. And I guess the legacy is just one of being innovative and trying to strategize and vision and build relationships and bring people along with me and with each other to make this change in the civil legal space and bridge this access to justice gap.
Yeah, that is so true. Well, listen, thank you so much, Erica, for, like I say, the work that you're doing to support underprivileged communities in the legal space. A lot of people don't realize the challenges that people face when they don't have access to the knowledge, to the financial resources, and to the experts like you who can help them understand how to navigate the system. Your work is really important.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for saying that. And thank you so much for having me as a guest this afternoon. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
It's an absolute pleasure. And thank you to everybody who tuned in today. The Her Story Circle is not just a podcast. We're a social impact movement that brings you the stories and voices of women from all over the world. We share these stories to uplift you, to inspire you, to energize you, but most importantly, to help take you from where you are now to where you're trying to go. So if you are someone in this area where Erica is working, here is a resource that can help you navigate this space. Or if you know someone who's struggling, please tag them on this video, share this podcast on your social media so we can reach more people as well. Erica, what's the best way for people to find you?
Yes, go to our website, liftwisconsin.org, and you can find us through and you can email us at info@liftwisconsin.org as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I'll be back again tomorrow, everybody, with yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world, and bye for now. Thanks again, Erica.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Gertrude.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning into the Her Story Circle podcast. I hope today's story has inspired you to believe in the power of our stories and the difference you can make in the world when you use your voice. I'm Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a rich tapestry of diverse perspectives. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these stories with more listeners. Follow us on social media by looking for the Her Story Circle podcast for more updates. And join us tomorrow for another episode filled with courage, resilience, and empowerment. Remember, your story matters, and together we're building a stronger, more inclusive world. Until next time, keep making her story.